My daughter's on her way down here. I think she'll be here about 7:30. So let's get it in.
Cool. Well, no, and this is one of the things that I was kind of taken aback with on Saturday when you started talking about experiencing, like real core carnal racism in this space here, right? And it didn't click with me until like walking in the door, like, oh, like this is more than just a feeling. Like this is a lived experience
This
that's
is
like
a
rooted in.
lived experience. And when I pass the varsity theater, it's like, I guess it's some things that you just never, ever forget. And I know with my dad, he would often tell us stories when he would go to the army. He went to the army and came home. And he would say, you know, um, things are really bad here. He said, I have to go around to the back of the Hub Cafe to get a sandwich and can't go in to eat it. But he served in the armed forces. And those were the kind of stories that I was raised up on and the kind of experiences that I did have. I'm a little older than most people here. So I have, you know, you read about it, but I lived it.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
What is it like now? I mean, just when you see so many people that all they can do is talk about it because it's not a lived experience.
Well, there's a poem by Paul. It's by Paul Lawrence Dunbar, and I read it. We wear the mask, and I feel that I lived it. So we laugh. We just all through life, hurting, crying, wanting things to be better, but we laugh. Oh, we just faked the grin. I lived it. Yep.
What is it like now living in this place that likes to pretend like we're this diverse utopia that doesn't have any sort of history or any sort of modern problems directly connected to race? Is that something you're comfortable talking about? And I'll ask that on multiple times, Ginger, because at any point in time, I don't want to just ask a question and you feel uncomfortable getting into a subject. So at any point in time, just be like,
What do you mean by reverse utopia?
oh no, just by people claiming that this is a diverse utopia, right? Like, they talk about, oh well, we've got so many people here and we have a
Yes,
black community and an
yes,
international
and I
community.
heard it Saturday. Like, I'm fine living here. This is a wonderful place. And I said to myself, yeah, wonderful for who? Wonderful for who? And I guess, if I lived in some neighborhoods and everything around me looked fine and I get in my car and go, it probably would feel that way. But even when I went and we went to the islands and we drove through all these nice, pretty places, but we went into the inner city and I saw the kids that were running behind the buses and wanting money and wanting things that they did not have that we could give. And I know I told my sister about it. She said, people go there, Ginger. They enjoy the beautiful places. They don't come back home talking about stuff like you talking about the kids and the kids wanting to talk to you and interact. They said they don't talk about that. What's wrong with you? But maybe that's the eyes that God has given me, that I see the small people. I see the children in need. I see some of the conditions going on in the city. Maybe I just don't see the beautiful side of it, and maybe that's not what he wants me to see. So I don't know.
And that is a lead into episode 42 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, the podcast where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, and we tie it all back to this little old place we call home, Carbondale, where we're going to get to see this place through another set of eyes. the properly critical view that we need to have of our home. Ginger Rye Sanders is the final interview that we have in our slate of interviews with 2021 city council candidates. But so much more than that, she is a lived experience of what this town has provided for folks, both good and bad. And I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation, Ginger, because you never know where these are going to go until we get into them. And
right, absolutely.
You've got real things to say.
Yes, real life experiences to say. Carbondale, to me, is home. I was born in Murfreesboro, but I lived in Carbondale, and I went to the Carbondale elementary schools. I graduated from the high schools, and the high school was a real different experience for me because I went to the Attucks grade schools, and that's where I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated, and I was the valedictorian, one of the valedictorians in the 8th grade. And I went to this new experience, this new horizon, this new place that I had never been, and that was to Carbondale Community High School. Going to Carbondale Community High School, there was a lot of friction, there was a lot of racism, there was a lot of name calling. We would sit in classes and the teachers would refer to black people as those people that live in jungles and things like that. Those were the kinds of things that we lived through in Carbondale, Illinois. And it made you really, really feel disenfranchised, pretty much abandoned from everything that I had grown to love and know in the Carbondale community, because the community was a place of safety for me. And when I was in the northeast side of Carbondale, our teachers were black, and preachers were black, and they had activities for all of us in the summer, and we went to camps together, and we broke bread together, and the preachers would come to my house. My mom and dad loved feeding the preachers. My mom was a good cook, so all the preachers would show up at my house. And my brother would get mad. Tell them preachers to go home. I'm tired of them coming over here eating up all of our food. But that was the kind of close-knitted environment that we lived in. My dad, he started a group called the Spiritual Travelers, and they're still singing today, like 70 years. My dad has been deceased since 1995, and he had a group, and a lot of times to forget the pain, we would have to sing our way through. And I remember when I was a little kid, the little guys would get on the corners, and they weren't doing a lot of shooting then, but they would get on the corners and they would say, doo-wop, 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 and they would all sing and harmonize together, and they would pop their fingers, and that was one of their ways that they escaped from what was going on around them. But Carbondale, I have a lot of memories of Carbondale, but I have always hoped for a better tomorrow. I've always hoped that things would get better, and now I'm in Carbondale now, and I am sitting here, and I said, well, God, you must really set me up this time, because I retired from the state of Illinois thinking that I would come home and just lay back and, go on trips and come back home and, be in the family home. And I had to always make sure I had a nice car, because the nice car gave me a way out of Carbondale, and I can get to the airport. And so I said, well, God, you really set me up this time. I'm sitting here laying in the bed, minding my own business, and some kids start shooting each other 500 feet from my house. And I was so outraged. I said, my God, what is going on here? And then that's how I went to the city hall and I talked to the mayor, I talked to the police department, and I said, something has to be done about this. I can't live like this. And my grandson was walking home
Mm-hmm.
from track practice, and I've said this many times, he was like in the line of fire. And it so happened that the other guy did not have a gun. If there was, I don't even know whether my grandson would be here. And I said, enough is enough. We need to do something. And that's how I got involved in the Women for Change. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have an idea. I didn't have no idea about what to do or what a community person does. But I learned. I learned through networking with other organizations. And they would tell you, well, we do it this way. This is what you have to do. You do this. And I was a good listener, and I learned from them. And the Women for Change, we have become a trusted body of women in Carbondale. We're like the grassroots girls, and we know that things change from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And I'm just a believer. It doesn't change from up there down. No, it changed from the bottom up. We go and we knock on doors. We introduce ourselves to people. People know us. We give them information. Come to our meetings. Let's educate and inform you what's going on. You got problems with your son. We're going to have a judge forum. You're going to come here and see who these individuals are. And if they are people that will represent you and your cause, come on out. We just come and we gather information to let the people know, that you have choices out here to make. And so the Women for Change, we got busy in the neighborhood. We have a garden. We're concerned about people eating the right foods. And when this pandemic came, it was like, oh my God, what are we doing right now? Because all the things that we could do and were doing, we did little programs for the eighth graders, couldn't do that anymore, couldn't have a dance. So we had to just get gift cards and everything went virtual, but we always try to contribute and invest into our community. We must invest into our community, and that's what we are. That Women for Change, we are investors in the community, into our youth, in things that are going on. And so during the pandemic, I had like an epiphany moment. I was sitting at Walmart, and I had let some of the family members go inside, and I'm sitting in my car parked.
Uh-huh.
And sitting in my car parked, and somebody came in, and then somebody else came in and parked, and I'm parallel in between the two cars.
Mm-hmm.
They moved out, and I'm sitting here trying to grab my wheel because it felt like I was moving, right?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever had that experience? And I felt like I was moving, and I wasn't. And then the other car came, and it came to me. You are sitting still, and everything around you is moving. You got to start moving, making things change, because the change is in your mouth. Because I believe that the power of the tongue, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I said, okay, I'm going to get up and get things done. That's when I started writing, trying to find programs. And so for the kids that were food insecure, they were inside of the home. And we had this big notice about the pandemic. We got this virus going, it's killing people. Everybody was afraid to go out. And I told the women, I said, we're going to go and we're going to buy up all this tissue. And we're going to go. We went to Sam's. We got everything that we could get. We got face masks. Kate was sewing face masks. And everybody was doing things, trying to make things. We're getting, bleach and all kinds of products. And we dropped it off to the people. A lot of people were afraid, but we went in and we said, we got to do this to make our community feel safe, and the people in Carbondale. We just didn't isolate it to the northeast side of town. We were everywhere trying to make people feel safe in a time that was very troubled. And so from then on, I just knew that it was time for me to do more. And I had looked at the city council, and I just kind of looked at it, and well, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But the the idea that I should run, and I had this passion about running and changing. Maybe you can speak up and speak out about things that and concerns that affect other people in this community. And I thought about the people that shoulders I stand on, a way of putting it, preachers and teachers and people that invested in me and helped me to become the woman that I am today. And so I said, well, it is time for me to speak up like they did. They spoke up in bold voices, and they did not fold. They did not fold under pressure. If it was tight and right, because they stayed with it until they worked it through. And I said to myself, I will do the same, because I look around in Carbondale and there's so many disparities. And I know if I see the disparities, I know somebody else has to see it too. And I know that the only way that we can change things in Carbondale, yes, it's a diversified city, it's a diversified town. We have individuals from everywhere. And I know it's going to have to take all of us to come together to the table to work this out. And so that's where I am. We're diversified, but we can come together. And sometimes we may disagree, and I don't mind you disagreeing with me, but we don't have to be disagreeable. When I see you next time, I'm gonna wave at you, I'm gonna smile at you, and smile with you, even though we disagree on things. Husband and wives, they disagree all the time, but that doesn't mean that you want to just walk away and just kill the relationship. The relationship is what I'm concerned about. The relationship that will turn events and turn situations around in Carbondale. Relationships that will build safety, places, safe neighborhoods. Relationships that are concerned about the things that go on in Carbondale, the employment rate, the employment labor force that does not reflect the demographics of the city. I know that there's affirmative action, they say 16%, but they really need to rewrite that. They wrote that back in the 70s sometimes. And when the minority population is 42%, and the affirmative action is still saying 16, something is wrong with that picture, to me too. And so there are a lot of things that we need to work on, but we need to work on it together and to have really candid conversations. And I even say in the neighborhoods that I'm from, we have to be responsible for our neighborhoods. We have to be responsible for having conversations with each other. There are neighborhoods inside of neighborhoods here. There are people that have come from Alexander County, and you ask other people, do you know? No, I don't know them. Well, we need to get to know each other. Because I think one thing about getting to know another man, another woman, you find out that you have more things in common than you do have differences. And I believe that relationships make the difference in communities coming together. And that is what it's going to have to take for things to change in Carbondale. And there are a lot of things that need to be changed. I can go on forever. We can probably talk until tomorrow here about things that need to be changed. Okay.
Well, so one of the things that you talked about was standing on the shoulders of giants, right, in terms of folks that have turned communities and pushed the world forward in this little old place of Carbondale, Southern Illinois, whatever it may be. right? I mean, are there stories that stand out in your mind?
There are so many stories. Oh my God. My pastor was Reverend Lennox Turley. He was a very dark skinned, just tall man.
Mm-hmm.
Well dressed. He would have these top coats and the top hats on. I mean, he was well dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And he would walk in the room and change the entire environment of the room. He played a piano on top of preaching, and it was a pipe organ that you don't even see anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But he would get on that organ and he would make it talk. And I tell you, I do remember him. He was a champion for civil rights. I used to sing back in the day, so I was the songbird of the church. And he would say, "Come on up here and sing for me, my little songbird." That's what I could sing. I don't sing as much as I used to anymore. But anyhow, I would go to their home, and he was so gracious and nice. And his wife was a school teacher, and he was very concerned about Carbondale. Anytime a black boy got locked up,
Mm-hmm.
the police department called him on the phone. He would get up out of his bed, go get them, and bring them home. That was the kind of neighborhood that I lived in, where men were concerned about the boys and they covered them and they kept them from uh, getting into trouble, and they cared about the families. And this was the kind of man that Reverend Turley was. And there were other men like Reverend Sumner that was a champion for civil rights. And he would stand up and get things done. And when the city said that they were going to, they had a bid or something for a job, and the city didn't abide by it. He got on the phone. It was a telegraph. There was a telegraph company back in the day.
No text messages. No, it was one finger tap tap
No,
tap tap.
it wasn't a text. He couldn't page anybody. I don't even think the pages were out. But he sent a telegram and shut down the whole project because they had made up in their minds that they were not going to abide by the conditions of having minorities on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were the kind of leaders that I remember that stood up and stood out. Reverend Turley went to the March, Washington, and Selma March, and he was always involved in trying to make things better. He sat on the police board. I want to say that he kind of started this police board in Carbondale, but I was kind of little on that. But I know he was part of that,
Mm-hmm.
establishing that police board, that community relationship between the police and the community. And during those days, we had black police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We had police officers. And we knew that we respected them, they respected us, and life was just different. Life was just different. And did we have struggles? Did we have problems? Sure we did. Sure we did. But we always felt that if we could wake up tomorrow, tomorrow is another day with new mercies that would give us a chance to turn things around.
And that's one of the things that Pepper talked about when I talked to him. Shucks, was it last week? Now I'm losing track of time. Time's not real in COVID.
It's the pandemic.
But I mean, he talked about that. I mean, he talked like he pulled out some pictorial history books, right, and was like, look at this, showing a picture of the police force of Carbondale, where there may have been 16 white guys and 2 black guys, right? Which, in terms of the ratio between
Right.
black to white officers
Right,
now
right,
versus
right,
what it is
right,
now, where you
right,
may have the
right,
same two black guys on a
right,
police
right,
force of 60 some odd.
right. And then they had the what they call auxiliary
Hmm.
policemen, and I think a few of them were black too. So they had a lot of options back in the day, you know.
Was your father also at some point in time in law enforcement? I can't. Pepper
No,
made
my
him.
dad was not in law enforcement.
Okay.
My dad worked for SIU,
Okay.
and at SIU he worked as a custodian out there.
Okay.
My mom, she worked in the film library, and they were always concerned about us, you know, good education and most people in where I grew up, good education,
Hmm.
get you a good job, live a good life, give back to the community, um, be in a position to make change and speak out about things. That's the kind of world that I lived in. And
Hmm.
my parents, my dad, he uh, was, I think, vice president of the Northeast Congress at
Hmm.
one time, and he worked in the community. He was a Mason. He was a worshipful master. I'm not so used with all those terms,
Right.
but but but
There's a lot of things going on with the
but he
Masons.
was very he was a very prominent man in the community.
Hmm.
Young men gravitated to him and wanted to always have conversations with him. And I'm thankful that I came from such a good home.
Yeah.
My dad, um, he was a fantastic dad. I can remember even coming home when I was working up north, and every time I would come home, he would, before I would leave, he would make sure I had gas in the car. He'd make sure that the oil is okay, check the tires. He did all of that, brought the car back so I could get on the road. So, you know, he was a fantastic dad. So, and my mother, Miss Willie Mae Jamison, she was the best cook in town. I wish I had some of her little cooking skills. I try every now and then, but I had wonderful parents, and they were well respected in the Carbondale community.
No,
Yes.
and that's Pepper had just alluded to something specific. I couldn't remember what it was, but it was definitely a of affinity for your father. Like it was very clear
Yes.
when he would whatever. Gosh, I'm gonna have
He
to
was the
rewatch it.
deacon of Rock Hill Baptist Church. I think
Uh-huh.
he was one of the head deacons at the time at Rock Hill Baptist Church. So he was one of the decision makers down there. So
Did you ever have anybody? I mean, you know, with a father that had impact on folks' lives, was there ever a point where somebody come up to you and you know years later and say something like, "Oh,
yes,
your dad,
yes,
this, that, the."
yes, I still do now. And then I come up, and then some people will walk up to me when Women for Change, when we were doing things in the community, and reaching out and making strides. And people would walk up to me, your dad would be so proud of you, you know, so, those kinds of things, and how much they remembered him,
Yeah.
and the things that he would say in and speak into their lives. And just like I say, the life and death is in the power of the tongue. And when you speak life to individuals and building people, um, that is lasting and very impactful. And that's what I'm about. I'm about building people, building lives. And that's where you'll find me.
Is that part of because you preach now, right? Or
I am an ordained minister. I am in the Church of God in Christ, and I am a missionary evangelist in the Church of God in Christ. Raised up in church just about all of my life. My dad's dad was a pastor. My dad's sister was a pastor, and my cousin is a pastor of a church over here in Carbondale. And so we just have that pastoring all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. In essence, yes.
But is that where you know, because you talk a lot about you know, the power of the tongue, right, and being able to speak. I mean, you know, which I very much connect with this idea that you really can just speak things into existence, right? That it starts an idea in your head
It has to, yes,
and
right.
it comes out your mouth, and then all of a sudden it's a real thing, and then you start putting stuff together, and you start putting people together, and you start
Yes,
solving problems, and all of a
yes.
sudden it went from this thing that you just said to this thing that you've now done. I, I mean, what does that feel like?
It feels amazing because I can look back at things that I thought that I would wanted to do, and I look around and I wonder, how did I get that done? But it was with being in the right time, the right place, speaking to the right people that had the right same frame of mind that you had and had a mind to work to get things done. And I could have never done anything that anyone said that Women for Change is done. I could have never done that without having a host of wonderful women. You don't have to have all the women. I know when we first started, everybody was coming. But I think people were just coming in just to see what what you were all
Yeah,
about.
what's going on? Your
Yeah,
new
because
kid
they
on the
just want to see
block,
what
and
you're all about,
yeah,
right? Yeah. What's she doing? What's she doing this? What's she doing? And so, uh, but God allowed those people that needed to be there to be there. So, I'm thankful. I really am.
no.
I really am.
Do you get to work with anybody that you grew up with too? I mean, I don't know how old you are
Deb,
versus
well, I
how
am
old Deb
old.
is, or
I am old, but we won't talk about that. I have 4 daughters and I have 22 grandkids, of which 6 of them are great grands. So you know I'm not a young girl.
where's Abraham in the mix of all of that? I mean,
Abraham is a grandson, and his mother is Rashida, and she had 6 children. Abraham had a twin, and her name was Abriana. She died
oh,
11 months after she was born. Abraham was 16 ounces when he came into the world, and he was on medication to expand his lungs, and he's a miracle just walking around. So whenever I see him, I just say, "Here's my little miracle grandson." But yeah, it there's a lot of memories there too.
is that part of keeping him so close?
Yes, that's why I try to keep him close, but now he start looking at the girls, and I can't even get him to come over for an appointment to even eat ice cream with me.
And a point that's
And he loves ice cream.
you're settled into the real grandma role where you get a text every now and then, a phone call, maybe he'll pick up after the third ring.
Well,
Type of,
when he texts me, I know something is going on somewhere. So I have to get in my car and roll over there and kind of see what's going on.
mm-hmm.
But he's a teenager,
Yeah.
so teenagers. They when they start looking at the opposite sex, grandma becomes pretty much obsolete until they want some money.
I'm terrified of having to do that with twins because we got a boy and a girl, and I don't know which direction I'm going to go with all the activity that's going to be in the house.
Yes, keep
and we
living.
and we gotta have all the conversations all at once with everybody in the room, and then everybody's red and blushing, going, "Oh no!"
Everybody. And I know one thing about family. It gives you a preview of how you entreat other people.
Yeah.
Uh, Family is so many personalities, so many. They're different, but they're alike,
Mm-hmm.
and it teaches you that people are different, but the difference is what makes them the relationship really great.
Mm-hmm.
And opposites are wonderful. And I have learned that, in this big family that I have. I had a dream when I was a young girl. I think I was maybe in my 20s. And I had this dream about this house that I was in. I don't know why I'm telling you guys all this.
This is the story, Ginger. This is why you're here.
And I had this dream, and I was in this house, and it was full of kids. And I think I only had like one or two at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, where all these kids come from? And now I know that I was just seen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I have all these grandkids that come around, and they're wonderful grandkids. I have their civil engineers, their uh, mechanical engineers. I have a grandson that played overseas. He's down in Florida now. He's trying to do something with the sports world, and I think he's working for a car company with it Enterprise or something like that.
Yeah.
He came back because he got afraid before COVID, so he ran back over here. He said, "Grandma, there's too many soft spots over there. I guess people were shooting and doing different things."
Uh-huh.
He said, "Nah, I got to come back." But I have I have great grandchildren that are doing great things, and I'm thankful. I really am thankful. I am thankful.
Has it been? I mean, has it been tough getting through COVID and not being able to connect with the whole family like you want to?
Well,
and...
I prayed and I just went. My sister had a stroke
Oh no!
right in COVID, and she had just, went through.
It's okay.
She had just went through uh, having all the tests and everything coming back fine. She was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was doing fine and doing well. Just had gotten married 6 months into her first time ever being married. She got married in her 60s, and first time getting married, and 6 months into the marriage, she finds out that she has breast cancer. So then during the pandemic, she had a stroke. So I had to go to see about her, and then went in to see her in Peoria and come back. And then my granddaughter, she had complications with her. She had a pandemic baby, my granddaughter, in Texas. So I had to find a way to get there and come back. But we've kept in contact, but not in large numbers. They will come down and see me. I have them to do one family at a time. Come on, just give me a break. And I don't have any problems. I said, okay, I see you guys. I'm in the bedroom, so you all do what you have to do up front. I'm not messing with you because I'm not trying to catch the COVID.
Yeah.
And then the little bitty ones would come to the door, and they would always laugh because I would call them, "You little COVID carriers, go on inside, go on in the other part of the house."
They're coming in, they're already snotty, they're already coughing and wheezing everywhere because that's what kids do. And...
Yes, but we had fun. It was just the fun, and they would come to the door. They knew where their boundaries were. But I have seen my family. I've had them to come down and of course, check on me to see how I'm doing. But we kind of did things at a distance, and everything was fine.
Are you feeling better having had both the COVID shots now?
I feel much better having both of the COVID shots. I really do. But during the pandemic, we did a lot of things. Even we did the program over there at Bethel, and we fed families. I had people over there cooking, and we did curbside meals. So I have been blessed through all of this, because I know individuals that have done less than this and have had concerns with COVID. So I just really feel like I'm blessed that I was able to help others who needed help, and that's where I find my strength and my encouragement is when I'm helping and doing for others.
It's just people miss it when they just serve a sense of self and not
Yes,
others. It just, we, and I think that's part of what's brought in this world to where it is now. There's so
right,
many folks that are just interested in, what can I get for me, and not, what do I do around me? Because, ultimately the richest part of your life is the folks that you're surrounded by. And
that is absolutely. I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
it's just the feel. Ah, man. So you when you talked about moving back, did you have a family house that you came back to?
Yes,
then,
my
or?
mom and dad. I live right next door to the Hayes Center.
Uh-huh.
And that's probably why I have concerns when people that, maybe I shouldn't say this, people that don't live on the northeast side of town
Mm-hmm.
and they would like to say what should go on the northeast side of
Mm-hmm.
town. And I live right next door to the Hayes.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting right there when they come into the parking lot and they break glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to go out and sweep it up.
Yeah.
I'm the one that hear all of the fast driving up and down the street in the alleys,
Mm-hmm.
4 o'clock in the morning. I hear it, and the gunshots,
Mm-hmm. No,
all of that.
no,
I
sorry.
hear it. I hear it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting right there, right in the mix of it,
And it's real.
and it is real, and it is real, and that's one of the things that I am so concerned about is safety in our neighborhoods. Safety is a big concern, and I'm concerned about senior citizens that speak to me and tell me that they don't feel comfortable in their homes going outside and having a barbecue and sitting outside crossing their legs because of the violence that goes on in the neighborhood. And I'm really concerned about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned about, if I can't walk down in my neighborhood, where can I walk?
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of safety concerns. I'm concerned about the sidewalks. We have little bitty sidewalks over there on the northeast side and over on the other side of town. There's the sidewalk project is something that Carbondale really, really needs to take a really good look at
Mm-hmm.
because some of the sidewalks are so narrow. A big person have to walk sideways in order to walk down the street.
Uh-huh.
But then there are people that are disabled individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and they have scooters and they have these accessible items that they have, accommodations for being a disabled person. And they have to use their scooters and ride down the street
Mm-hmm.
instead of the sidewalks where they should be able to ride down and leave their home going to the main part of Carbondale.
Mm-hmm.
Those are concerns to me that I really feel that the city needs to really take a really good look at. Copper is another concern that I have.
So
And
that's a really good kind of next space to go into that, because we were talking beforehand with Georgia and just kind of talking about some ideas that would be a good just again core history for Carbondale that not everybody knows, not everybody's lived with, had to experience themselves, but you've experienced it from growing up to having friends that have had cancer as a direct result of the pollution of the copper site. How are you comfortable with talking about that as well?
well, copper. I'm concerned about copper because The first thing I'm concerned about why is it still on the city council's table?
Mm-hmm.
Why is the city of Carbondale still dealing with copper when we know that the ground is dangerous and the ground has contaminants in it that has historically caused cancer in the Northeast neighborhood? Environmental racism is what I call it,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever there is in systemic racism, systemic poverty, you will always find land that has been degraded.
Mm-hmm.
And that land over there is an example of land, the degradation of land. And uh, chemicals have been left there unattended. People have been exposed to it. The entire plant was even built for poor whites and poor blacks, those individuals that would risk their lives to put food on the table for their families.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard stories about some of the people being so drenched in chemicals that they would have to wash themselves off and then burn the clothes before uh, they entered into their homes. But they were individuals that took risk, and so they could raise their families. But to still have chemicals, creosote, all of these other chemicals, dioxin, furin, that are known chemicals that cause cancer. And then you look at the role of people that died of cancer in close proximity to copper.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a young lady in town, and she said, next time you talk about that, call out my family's name. She said, my mother died of cancer. My grandmother died of cancer. My cousin died of cancer. All of them in close proximity to copper plant. But yet and still, they are continuing to clean off copper. Every time they go into copper to say okay, it's okay, they find more chemicals, they find more problems. And somebody is concerned more about the money than they are about the people.
I was blown away when I drove by Coppers most recently in the past maybe week or so, right around when they said, "Oh, next cleanup's done," and you just look at it and you go, "This doesn't look." I mean, and not that you can tell by looking at anything that it looks clean or not, but it looks like all they did was turn over the earth to see more contaminants
To see
there.
more contaminants. And there is an old saying, I was telling Georgia about it, the sacrificial zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. Georgia said we don't say that anymore. But to me, it's a sacrificial zone. There are people and residents in the Carbondale area that have been sacrificed so somebody else can make a profit. And it's just time for us to look at things the way that they should be looked at. It's time for this Beezer East Incorporated to make some decisions that will help the land heal and also to heal the people that live on the northeast side of Carbondale that have been experiencing problems. These substances cause low sperm count in some men, causes asthma. Count the kids on the northeast side that have asthma. Abraham's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them do not realize that they are exposed to chemicals that's causing medical concerns. And then when you get to the doctor's office, I'm not going to even talk about that today. But anyhow, that's another problem when you
Yeah.
get there, when it comes to getting the right medical advice.
Mm-hmm. And there's no checkbox for generational racism and exploitation of black bodies. There's no line item at the top that just says check here if you're, the grandson of somebody who was exposed to chemicals that has this long-term issue.
Yes,
They
right.
just write you off and say, "Here's an inhaler. Good luck."
Yeah. You can take it. You have strong black bodies. You can take it. Yes, you don't need that extra medical attention, even though your insurance company's going to pay for it. But that's okay. That's okay. I had an issue with one of my physicians here in town, and I had to go to the hospital, and I asked them to check some things out, and for some reason, she felt like it wasn't really necessary. So I wrote her a nice little note and said that I would not need her services anymore because I felt like she was not making, good decisions, and the decisions that she was making were race oriented,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did not feel comfortable being under her care anymore. And so when I did that, then she proceeded to go and get referrals that I had asked for in the very beginning because I believe that she realized too
Mm-hmm.
that there she was acting and practicing out of, maybe just historical disparities that
Mm-hmm.
that she feels like things are okay,
Yeah.
but I just felt that it wasn't okay. So um, I think there are a lot of issues that we deal with in Carbondale, and I just believe that it's time for change, and it's time for good change. And I believe that when people speak up and speak out, I think people do better. Um, I've had some issues even with the COVID
Mm-hmm.
vaccine dissemination of information.
Mm-hmm.
It did not get to the underserved or the people that are disenfranchised or the
Mm-hmm.
people that are underrepresented. It seemed like it went out to others first, and then when it came out that we could make appointments, the appointments were all filled because the information got to someone else before
Mm-hmm.
it got to others. That's a problem to me.
Yeah.
So I do what I can, and I just believe that collectively we can all do better in Carbondale. We see the disparities. Maybe we don't want to realize it or say that they're really there, but they are there.
Yeah.
They are there.
People afraid of the difficult conversations because they already live comfortably.
Yes. Say that again. Say that again.
People don't want to have the difficult conversations because they're already living comfortably.
Yes. 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 And I don't know how you can be comfortable
Yeah.
when other people are uncomfortable. I don't know how you can get that comfortable. I just really don't know how you can get that comfortable. But apparently people do. I had a conversation with a young lady, and I was talking about the people, the young women we have to reach out to, and that we got to have engaging conversations and get the young mothers. Because, see, I'm concerned about young mothers. I'm concerned about when young mothers go and work, and they have to go and work at McDonald's, and they have to take care of their kids, and they have to get a babysitter, and they have to come and figure out whether I pay the rent or do I pay the rent on the child for the babysitters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about that. But I was talking to this young lady. She made it. She made it. She lived in a nice, big old, pretty house. She said, well, they have to get it the same way I got it.
Luck.
And I said, wow, what happened to equity?
Yeah.
What?
Well, and people miss that. I mean, it astonishes me right? Anytime a successful person talks about how they got it on their own, right, because they got money and they got the nice car and they got the nice house and whatever else, it's like, listen, you are a statistical anomaly. You got lucky. Luck is as much a part of it as anything, because there's people that have worked their entire lives.
That's true.
To still live and struggle through it at any age.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes I think we forget about who helped us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I wanted to tell certain people, I remember when this certain person made sure you got a scholarship so you could go to school.
Mm-hmm.
But see, we forget that there was someone in our corners that was pushing us, promoting us so we could do better. And when we forget those simple things of who got us started, who made a way for us, who said, okay, I will help you do this. And when we forget that, then we've forgotten about the essence of living. So I don't know how anyone can get that comfortable. I just really don't. Because I think that anyone that has done anything, someone has helped you.
Mm-hmm.
Even in your business that you have here.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can look at individuals that sacrificed their time, their talents, their money in order to help you get where you are today.
Yeah. It's all of us. I
Yes.
mean, it's like you said, it's relationships.
It's relationships.
Right? Those relationships aren't just I know you, you know me.
Mm-hmm.
It's we've lived together.
Right.
We've had experiences together.
Right.
There's one hand helps the other up, and
hand.
it's just a chain of actions that
Absolutely.
make a better place.
Well, the only thing that I can say, I'm not a politician. But you can see that. I'm not a politician. I don't owe anybody any favors. I don't have any hidden agendas. The only thing that I am running because I believe and I know that I can promote and bring about good change through finding resources and ways to help the residents that are in Carbondale. And I know that there are many problems and concerns, and that's where you'll find me. You'll find me right there working through the problem, trying to get things and make things better for all the citizens of Carbondale. I will listen to you. I may not have the answer, but I'll listen to you, and I will come back with an answer. My pastor always told me, he said, you are a go-getter and a bringer-backer. And I said, well, I thank you for that. So I can say to Carbondale, I will be a go-getter and a bringer-backer for the city of Carbondale to find answers so we can have a better Carbondale, Illinois.
And that's it.
Is that it?
That's it. Episode 42 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, the final in our series interviewing city council candidates for 2021. But there's so much more than that. Of all the folks that we've talked to, we're all just folks that are your neighbors, that are your, as Ginger put it, your relationships. We are the folks that you're connected to. And I love the go-getter and bringer backer, right? Because that is just a good way to describe Ginger and just what she does. She goes out and she gets it and she brings it back for this little place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. Again, episode number 42 is in the books. Ginger Rye Sanders, and as I always say at the end of these, have a good one, whatever that one may be.